Hey everybody, Michael here. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Just thought we'd do a little bit of a different type of a live stream this evening. Normally we're talking about women's photography, boudoir photography, but had a few questions asking about from women I work with, OnlyFans and other online creators. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a show here tonight to answer some questions specific to that area. And this is your first time viewing this. My name is Michael. I'm a women's photographer from New Jersey. I've been a professional photographer for now over, like 15 years or so, worked with hundreds and hundreds of women. And maybe 5 years ago or so, women started coming in for sessions and started to talk to me, be like, is this for a wedding or, no, it's for, and they'd start talking about OnlyFans, and I had no idea what it was at first. But I did realize more and more women were starting to come in and creating content for that platform. So during the past several years, there have been dozens and dozens of women I've worked with who have come in to create photo style content and now video style content with me. So I've learned a bunch of stuff about working with these people, preparing the sites, helping people create their headers, set up their accounts, and so forth. So I have a world of experience when it comes to operating in that environment. So I may get questions from people who contact me about doing work, all kinds of questions regarding OnlyFans and how that sort of works. So I do a very similar boudoir show, so I thought I'd do one more centered towards this OnlyFans content. So tonight, just going to be answering a few questions that people may often have about either getting started or people who are experienced, and a little mix of both, and we'll see how it goes. So get into my questions and put them on the screen. I don't have maybe 7 or 8 questions here. And the interesting thing about the women that I work with for, from beginner, people who have no idea what they're doing, all the way to experienced professionals who have established lots of thousands of followers, producing content all the time, and kind of everything in the middle. So I've seen the full spectrum of people working on that site and what they're doing and how they're operating. And so taking that knowledge, going to be trying to answer these questions as best as I can. Hopefully this is helpful. And anybody popping in, questions or comments, leave them down below. If we don't get to them on this show, get to them on a future episode. So let me get in and bring up the first question for everybody. And this is really a common question. I'll get this either email on my website or through my chat on my website, is that people who are just getting started, do I really need to hire a professional photographer to kick things off on OnlyFans? Or is it okay just to start with selfies and stuff I shoot on my own? And the answer here is it's 1000% okay just to start on your own with your phone and get going. This is always more of a budget related question than anything. But if you are brand new, you're starting with nothing. As you know, it's tough to build an audience on there. And so immediately going out and investing a lot of money isn't necessarily a good return on your investment. Now, if you have the money and you just want some really great photos to kick off, or as you know, a lot of women are on Instagram or so forth, posting material to drive their subscribers to the OnlyFans site. Nothing wrong with that if it fits within your budget, but it is not necessary to go out and start spending a lot of money, especially if you don't have it, because there won't be an immediate return on that spend. I would say, figure things out, figure if you enjoy what you're doing or not. And then at that point, you may want to make a decision of, I'm looking to level up my game a little bit and want to get some experience. And there are some other, and I'll get into a little bit more detail because this is just something that is super popular with women wanting to know. They feel like if they don't go out and hire somebody, their account is doomed to failure. And that's really not the case at all. So So I know there's another question in here or two that is similar. I'll answer it a bit more detail, but no, start at home, use your own phone. It's a perfect way to get in there and start creating content at a low cost. Another very popular question that comes in is about, does Instagram help? Does having a big Instagram account help when starting an OnlyFans? How many followers on IG do I need? Well, the more the better, as you can see. And sometimes that people are getting started with their OnlyFans account, they are not aware that that site has really no search function. There's no way for anybody to go in and find you. You just have a page, and no one's going to know that it even exists unless you tell them that it's there somehow. And so, the popular ways to do that obviously are people coming from Instagram or TikTok, or you see people on Twitter, and they tend to build up audiences on those other sites and direct people to that one OnlyFans account, although that's getting trickier. I know that on Instagram, they're not too fond of that kind of connection there, but you have to be a little bit more creative in sending people to your account. But as far as how many followers on Instagram do you need, there isn't a minimum amount. However, the larger the following you have there, as it makes sense, there are more people that you have the opportunity to send to see your other paid content that you have. So it, even in some regards, I would say that is the more important part. And if you're just starting, you can start on your TikTok or your Instagram, build up a small following there. And then once you get to a couple thousand people, which, for some content creators isn't that difficult to do. Once you get up to that specific threshold, you'll have a good amount of people waiting, and then you could start directing them over to that other site, and you'll get a good jump start on your material there, as opposed to if you're starting both at once. You're putting a lot of energy into building two sites. It's like double the work. So in some regards, even starting on Instagram or TikTok or whatever your platform is first, building up a following and then directing those people over to the OnlyFans site sometimes is a little easier, that I found. But how many really boils down to what you feel comfortable with that you've developed. It could be 1,000, it could be 5,000, it could be a couple hundred if you feel that you have a couple of engaged people on that platform who are really responding to you and are interactive and interested in you can following you over to the other site. So there isn't an exact number. However, I would develop a following off site before you even started to worry too much about that Instagram. It's just, and then work on that once you have people that are on your Instagram or TikTok that you have a good audience with. Okay, next question is, what are the main advantages of working with a professional photographer versus taking my own photos for OnlyFans content? Well, I think the main thing is, and I think there's more questions in here about this too, that most women using iPhones are very, very good for photos. That's perfectly suitable to make your own content. You can learn a lot from working with somebody who knows how to pose people and learn a little bit about lighting and how to get your body, in a situation that's attractive or flattering to your physique and so forth. So I think once you get in there, and it also could be another level of gear and lighting and stuff like that with a professional photographer, whether it's in a studio or however these people are working. It's something that they do all the time. Usually they can produce a high quality photo, and you can certainly learn a thing or two. And I found this is really helpful sometimes, again, and not even so much on the OnlyFans site, but if I'm just keep using Instagram as an example, if you've been growing your Instagram, producing that professional content there can really draw a little bit more attention, and people like to appear professional and so forth. Not everybody. I know some people are very sensitive about the old phone selfie, and if that's the only picture that they have, I've talked to women and every one picture I have is just me with a selfie. So, and everyone doesn't always have somebody around to help them take photos or so forth. So the advantages of working with a professional photographer is gaining that experience, a little bit of how or what makes a good photo, and seeing how that turns out for you. I would not initially, again, go out and spend a ton of money on a professional camera and lighting and stuff like that until you see how your account starts to develop. So that is, in some cases, a less expensive way to get great pictures than also going out and buying a bunch of stuff for yourself. So it's the experience. It's probably in some ways going to be less expensive than buying all that gear for yourself. And also you're working with somebody who knows how to pose women and make you look your best. And going through that process a couple times, you could start to pick up on some tips there and take advantage and use them when you're creating your own photos. So I would recommend people who are into and have been growing their account and have been, seen some level of success to go out and try it at least once. And the other advantage is too that if you're creating a special series of photos or sets of photos that are professionally done, sometimes you can sell them for a bit more money than ones that may have only been taking yourself. Here's my set at the beach, or here's my set here, or whatever it is, and it's going to have a more polished professional look. And sometimes you could charge more for those. So ultimately, if you do have a core of followers, you can charge more for some of this professionally created work than you may be able to for stuff you created yourself. And not all the time, and not in every instance, and not for every case. But I know there are some women who want everything to look very polished and complete. So that's another advantage of going and having a professional photographer do some work for you. So a bunch of stuff going on with that. Okay, next is, hey Mike. Oh, hey. I thought about starting an OnlyFans for a few years to make some extra dollar signs. So most people do. Is it as easy as some people make it seem? Well, isn't this the $1 million question? Probably like the most popular question. Is it easy? Is it worth it? Am I going to make money? And I think a lot of women find themselves in situations where they're like, "Ooh, I need a couple extra dollars to help pay some bills, or I just want to make some extra money. I know what I'll do. I'm going to go and start." I've heard all these. It's so simple, but I think in general, the answer is no. It's not that simple, and it's a lot of work. It is not a situation where on a Monday you decide to create that account. On Wednesday you already have people, buying your content, and it takes a while based on who you are. And that's where doing a lot of that warm-up or preemptive kind of work and building an audience, unless you have a large audience following you already somewhere that you can bring over with you. But if you're starting from scratch, it is not that simple. I think that you really need to enjoy. And the one thing I see about the people who tend to excel and who are successful there is you need to be a content creator type person. Like some people who naturally, want to be taking photos of themselves, like all day long. And there are some people who are just enjoy that and do it. For other people, it's really a chore. It's like, oh, I have to take more photos. And, oh, I can't believe I got to do this. I just did this a couple days ago, or I just did this a week ago. And if you find yourself agonizing through that process, then it really isn't the thing for you. You just have to be able to go in and do it. So if you're on your Instagram account constantly taking photos of yourself everywhere you are, and you kind of enjoy that kind of activity, I think it does make it a bit easier for that type of person. But in terms of speed or quickness, generally it's not. It's a part-time, or in some cases like a full-time job, going in there and doing that. So if you're already working, it's another part-time job that you go in and need to make all this content and curate these accounts and building an audience or building followers is tough, and it's a lot of work, and it's just posting and interacting with your people. So you need to enjoy that type of a thing. So I think one of the areas that a lot of people tend to fail is, they don't understand how much work it is going to be, and they think it's just going to be, like I said, start on a Monday, and by Wednesday people are buying all your content. And I've seen online people making all this money, and they quickly realize that that's not really how it works out. And then their enthusiasm goes from like a 10 to a 4, because they don't see these immediate results. They expect it to be, and then it slowly kind of goes away, and then, you know, the accounts kind of stop producing material and fizzle out. You just have to be prepared for that work, and it is not easy. And I'm sure people would agree who are on there all the time producing content. Ooh, my voice is horrible today. Okay. And next question is, what basic photography equipment do I need to start creating high quality content for OnlyFans? Now, I am a big proponent of don't go and spend any money at first. Most of you have an iPhone, and that's really all you need. The cameras on smartphones are wonderful now. They are exceptional. So in terms of having that with you all the time, that's all you need to take photos and to start getting going at like a minimum. And the one thing, as I talked about earlier, sometimes women really, they don't want every photo to be at arm's length. You know, every photo on their account or their profile is them holding a phone. I'm holding it here so we can see, you know, and you're limited by what you can do by the length of your arm. You know, and so there are, of course, options. There are photo timers built into the iPhone. So even if you have a desk or something nearby, you could prop your phone up and give yourself a couple of seconds to go and take a photo. Or if you're willing to spend, like I would say, the really only other thing you would need to get, if you're willing to spend $25 or so, you know, you can go on Amazon, buy one of those very basic phone tripods, phone stands that extend up to 4 or 5 feet or so. Most of them come with a phone holder attachment. You could just clip your phone into them. That way you can put it at the end of your bed or somewhere standing, and it goes high enough to capture you. I wouldn't trust a professional camera on those things, but they're fine for a cell phone or an iPhone. Some of them even come with a wireless remote, which is great too. It like Bluetooths to your phone. That way you can step back, and they're small, so you can hold them. I don't have one here, but they're really small. I thought I had one nearby. And you could just hide it in your hand, so that way you could take a couple of steps back and kind of click your photos and just click, 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 click. And it makes life much easier with that. It gives you a bit more freedom if you want to lay down, stand, or wherever you're going to be doing. That way you could break that arm's length kind of a thing that you got going on. So really, I wouldn't go out and get anything other than, you know, a stand. Most people now have iPhones, which is all you need. A little bit of a bonus to get a stand and see how that works. And then at that point, the only other thing I would say, if you're okay there and you wanted to not spend a lot of money, is to get a light. And once again, you can go on to a Amazon or B&H or a lot of these places that sell photography equipment and buy these small, at this point, I wouldn't spend a lot of money on that inexpensive LED panel lights. And again, I don't have one near, but I'm surrounded by them. I have one in the back there that's putting some light on that wall. They're just, I'm sure you've seen them again. They're just small battery charged lights. And what they can do is just, again, light is very key in making a photo look good. And if you have a light, especially if you're in a darker room, or if you're taking your pictures at night, or if you have just a light or two, that can create some weird shadows on your photos, and you can use one of those lights to kind of balance everything out. And it really just takes a little bit of experimentation on how to set that up and where to put it again. And this is where the work comes in. You know, you can figure out how to light yourself. But those are really the only two things I would say to add on. They're completely not necessary at first. Start with your phone, some practice there. If you feel you need to get the stand for about $25, that way you're not spending a lot of money. And then if that works out for you, you know, when you really want to try something different, you can go out and get a light or two and experiment with some lighting. And that way you'll be leveling up your photos a bit more, but only kind of ease into that. There's no need to go out and spend, nor would I ever go and spend a lot of money on super expensive cameras and super expensive lights and lenses and stuff like that until you're sure there is going to be some immediate return or a return on that. And it's very, when people start out, they're very enthusiastic. I get it. But I've also seen plenty of people go out and buy all this gear only for a month or 6 weeks later. It's just sitting unused because it was a lot of work. I didn't feel like doing that. And they just wasted, $1,000, $2,000 on stuff, and they didn't need it. So just wait. I know you say, well, you have a $3,000 camera and you have hundreds of dollars of light. Yeah, but you don't need that to get started. Just go simple. Take it from there. Make those guys pay for your stuff. You don't pay for it. Okay, so next question. Once again, here we're talking about, I'm trying to be smart with my money. Always important. When is the right time to splurge on a pro photographer for my OnlyFans without feeling like I'm just throwing cash away? So good question. And this is something you always need to be thinking about, as I noted. Really do not go pre-spending a lot of money till you need to. And as you work through the course of building your business and building your followers, and you decide you want to start leveling up your content, you'll know. But until like going out and buying a mirrorless camera or fancy gear, it takes time and effort to even learn how to use things. Cameras that get more expensive are not necessarily easier to use. In some cases, they're more difficult to use and get the results that you want. But I would really wait. I guess it is not necessary to do that at first. And as far as going to splurge on a pro photographer, as we noted, people get very excited about starting their accounts and they feel, well, I need that to go and do it. As I mentioned a question or two earlier, it is not necessary. If you have the money and you feel like, yeah, it's not spending money I don't have, or I want to get great pictures for my header image, or or so forth, just be reasonable, spend something that, yeah, you're going to get a return on that eventually, but I would not go throwing money away on an expensive photographer at first. It's not necessary. If you have a friend to take some pictures for you or something like that. And again, if you're brand new, nobody's seeing these photos anyway on your page. Nobody, so that gives you time to start to work into that and become better. And then at that point, when it's all right, so now I've got a couple hundred people to sell something to. And as I noted earlier, if there's someone local to you who does work with online creators, it doesn't hurt to go and do something special, and then you can go and sell that. But you have to think in terms of, all right, if it's going to cost me a few $100s for the photographer and this experience, if you're getting makeup and stuff like that, am I going to be getting that back? And if you have no followers or subscribers, yeah, you may be creating this expensive content and you're putting it out there in, the mass messages or something. But if you don't have anybody to buy it at that point, there's no return. So that's why waiting till you have, and I don't know what the right number is, several hundred or so. At that point, at least you can say, all right, this percentage of the people I know are gonna buy this content, and at least you're getting a return on that money that you spend. And like I said earlier, the only exception, if you have some and you really want to, or you're using that professionally created material on your Instagram or TikTok site to try to drive people to your OnlyFans, then that's a little bit of a different strategy. But these days you can't really post super explicit stuff on Instagram. They're really cracking down on that, so you have to be very, very, very careful. Okay. Will getting a pro to do my shoots actually help me get more followers and keep them interested, or is it all just the same in the end? Well, we've discussed this a little bit here, and if you're brand new, getting a professional photographer to do your pictures isn't going to affect your followers, because there's no one there to see those pictures. And I was recently, working with a woman. She had one subscriber on brand new. I got one. I'm like, and It just doesn't click that, yeah, you're spending several $100s to create photos. Now, again, you have the money and that's okay, but you're not getting an ROI on that initially. And then if you are paywalling your account, no one's going to see them anyway, so I would not do that. Not a great strategy to go out and spend a lot of money to do that. I think it is more of once you have a bunch of people following you, you're going to get a return on that. I've repeated that several times now. Then you may consider going out and having somebody do that. Or video content is becoming huge now. If someone's going to be producing videos for you, you're going to have a return on that in some form. Video editing is much tougher and trickier than photos. Then it may be worth it. But I don't think necessarily you're going to gain followers faster just because of that. There are better ways to spend your money immediately than on expensive photography. Don't do it. Okay, next, collaborations. How can collaborations benefit my OnlyFans page, and how do I choose the right collaborators? Well, as you know, it's all about bringing more people to see your content. And as I noted a while ago, that platform has little to no, search or, so people can't find you other than you sending them directly to your page. Yeah, I know once in a while they have the new, if you're new, it shows a couple of accounts there you may be interested in. Generally, those are people with really high subscriber accounts. New accounts tend not to be on there. And how do they pick that? I don't know. I would not rely on that. But, collaborations is sort of the one way where two creators can you can get access to somebody else's subscribers. They can get access to your subscribers. The idea being that some of those people will again subscribe to you, and likewise some will go to the other account. So I think that's a great way to market your site, and it's a popular thing to do. The tricky bit is because really, again, on that site, nothing is kind of location based. It can be very difficult to find somebody in your area unless you just happen to know outside of that website and meet some people locally. Oh, I do content and you're meeting them off the site, and then you meet. But through that website, it's very difficult to meet people locally because you can't really search by area or anything like that. So it can be tricky. I think I hear of more stories of people meeting on Instagram than actually through there. People will find accounts on Instagram because you can sort of put your location a little bit more on your account. And I know women will follow other women. Oh, I'm near you. One day we should get together and do some photos. And I think that more happens off the site than on the site. But again, as you grow, women will follow your account too, and you may find someone that's close by. But and as far as how do you choose the right collaborators, well, when it comes to the type of content people produce, it is wide ranging from very demure and simple. As you know, some people go to the other end and are doing more explicit type of content on there. And some people, when they start, really don't know what they're going to do, or they start off at one end and they see how they're going to go. I think the key is here, if you are meeting up with somebody, or if you are going to do a collaboration with somebody, you want to talk to them and make sure that whenever you're getting together or whatever you're doing, that you're comfortable creating that type of content. So if you meet someone that's nearby that's inviting you to do some work with them and they do more explicit type material, you haven't, or you don't want to find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, or feel like you need to do something that you normally wouldn't do. So aside from finding somebody to work with, another difficulty is finding somebody who's sort of on your kind of level of content, so that way you can feel comfortable working with that person and getting some material out of it that you could both share, that you're happy with. And I know I've heard where, especially with some younger creators, where they have met somebody and traveled. I know one story, drove several hours, to meet somebody else, and they were just texting them, and when they got to this other person's place to do some photos or some videos that they were going to do, is that the woman who house the one girl was going to, she was really planning some sort of very involved, explicit kind of material, and the newer woman wasn't really uncomfortable in that situation. Things worked out okay. No one was forced to do anything, but she wasn't expecting to walk into a house and you know, they chatted, but they didn't chat about what they were going to be doing. And one woman assumed everything was no holds barred, everything goes, and the other woman was really kind of, nah, I'm just starting off. And you know, so just choose somebody or speak to them ahead of time, come up with a little bit of a plan on what everybody's comfortable doing, exchanging some ideas. So that way when you get together, it's smoother and easier, and that takes a little bit of work and experiences as well. Okay, and next question is, what should I look for in a photographer to ensure they're a good fit for my OnlyFans content? That's an excellent question. And this, again, sort of boils down to the type of material that you plan on producing. And as I noted, it really runs the gamut from very demure, simple stuff to more explicit, you know, I have to be YouTube friendly here, kind of material, and then everything in between. So when you're approaching a photographer, some may say working with, you know, online creators. Some women's photographers, like boudoir photographers, you may be able to approach them to do some kind of content. But when it comes to, just like I noted, working with another creator, if you're going to reach out to a local photographer, always say, hey, you know, this is what I'm creating my material for. These are my ideas. Are you okay with it? Because I know, in working in the women's portrait photography industry, just because you may be near a local, like a women's photographer or boudoir photographer, does not necessarily mean that they're okay creating any kind of explicit or graphic material. It's just not the case. So just check in with the person and say, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. Or if you have some samples of your work, this is what I've been creating. Can we create something that is similar to this? So first thing is to, you know, and I know a lot of people don't want to talk to anybody now. They don't want to talk to photographers. I would pick up the phone and call them. They will be happy to speak to you. It just really cuts to the chase. And that way you're not, again, getting yourself in a situation, because if you are spending money, the last thing you want to do is invest your hard-earned money in a photography session, driving somewhere, going to meet this person, and again, have it turn out to be not quite the results you were expecting, because the person there was like, yeah, that's not really what I want to do. You know, and once you're there, what are you going to do about it? You're there for a session, and you're going to wind up with pictures that really aren't quite what you wanted to get. So be clear with your idea, share it with the photographer, make sure they're okay with producing that kind of material. Another very important thing is you have to do homework when you are picking out your photographer. If you're going with somebody, I urge you to do this, because a lot of people in the world of photography, you know, and I always use the example when I'm talking about women's photography, and like a lot of brides going in for boudoir sessions for their weddings and stuff like that, is people have a way of like suddenly waking up one day and deciding, I'm going to be a women's photographer today, or I'm going to be a model photographer. They kind of wake up and declare themselves like a pro, whatever it is, and they'll go on Amazon and buy a camera, and they'll put up a website, and they'll call themselves Nancy Jones, professional photographer, but they have like no technical skills, no experience working with people. You know, they literally don't. And what can happen is you just find somebody online or on a website, and they're calling themselves a pro. You have no idea, by just looking at this website, often how long they've been doing what they're doing, if they have any technical skills or ability even to produce photos to the kind that you want. And I, again, have heard in my career countless stories of, you know, where, two women at work. Oh, my friend, she just starting a boudoir photography business, and I'm getting, why didn't you use Janie? You know, and 2 weeks ago, Janie was in an MLM, you know, a boss babe, and now she's declaring her, and that didn't work out, and now suddenly she's a professional photographer. And the situation, not that it's for getting in a harmful situation, but you're not going to get the results. These people do not know what they're doing, even despite the fact that they are calling themselves professional photographers. And what I would always, the example use is that if you woke up one day and for whatever reason decided you're going to call yourself a professional guitar player and you knew nothing about playing the guitar. Yeah, but you race down to the guitar store and buy the most expensive guitar you could find. Does that mean you know how to play the guitar? Like, how long do you think it would take you to learn, become a proficient guitar player? A week? No, it's going to take days and weeks and months before you can even learn, probably play a song and learn the chords or so forth. It's kind of, your friends would think you were crazy if you told them when you woke up, oh, I'm a professional guitar player. I'm like, Donna, you have no idea how to play guitar. I know, but I'm a pro. Which would be kind of really silly, but this is exactly what happens in the world of photography all the time. These people call themselves pros. They have no technical abilities or skill or, posing and going through all that. It's just really, and you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're handing over your good money again to someone who is just does not up to that level that needs to be to produce the content for you. So do your research. Most photographers are going to be on Instagram or have websites. Look for a good body of work there. If their scroll only goes back like a month, it's not a good sign. If it goes back and you see different people and different body types and all different, a variety of things in there, odds are they've worked with a bunch of women and may have a bit more experience. If it's only one person in 80% of the photos, it's not a good sign. They just talked their friend into doing pictures and she couldn't take it anymore. I'm not doing any photos with you, which happens as well. And then ultimately, and this is a trickier thing, and I can look at a photo and know whether a photographer knows what they're doing or not in a half a second, but you have to learn how to maybe distinguish good work from bad work. So if you see something that doesn't look so great, that could be a warning sign as well. And it's not easy. The bottom line is, and I deal with this in my boudoir business all the time, and it's why the show exists on the boudoir end, is to help women make smart choices when finding their photographer. It's not as easy as you think. So you got to put in that work, ask the questions, do the whole work, chat with the photographer as much as you do not want to talk to anybody. Talk to people, call them and have that discussion. It's nothing they haven't heard or talked about before. So, but that way things go smoothly. Share your budget. So that way, not getting any financial surprises in working with somebody. And then that way, those are some tips I would have for looking for a photographer to create your content. So it's a lot to go through. But the good news is, if you do find someone good and it's easier the second time, you can go back and work with them. Okay, next question. What's the one thing you've noticed in common about women who grow accounts you've worked with? I guess you mean grow their OnlyFans account. What do they have in common? Well, and as I noted before, it is just, there's two things I would say. One is that they enjoy producing content. And this is something you either know or you don't know. These women will more pictures. And here's this outfit. And here's this. I'm going to Starbucks and here I am. And it's not just explicit, it's just content in general. And every picture doesn't have to be without anything on. It really doesn't. But they enjoy it. And so they're taking photos throughout the course of the day. They have a good backlog of material they can use and keep sharing on not only their OnlyFans accounts, but all the feeder accounts they're using to send people there. And they're creating enough material for all of these, whether they're on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter. And then it's just people who enjoy doing that. It's work and it's not for everybody. But I would say that's the one thing in common. And then the second thing is they just keep doing it week in and week out. And I always joke with this one woman I bump into, who's a creator, and every day on her like Instagram, I've been following her for such long. It's just that photo over and over. Here are my boobs, and here are my boobs, and here are my boobs, and here are my boobs every day. And it's like every day, there it is, there it is. You know, and week in and week out, and month in and month out, just very, very consistent, over and over. And not every photo you create is going to get 1 million likes or 1 million sales. It doesn't work that way. But the more consistent you produce things regularly, whether it's a couple times a week, every day is a lot, but just got to stay on schedule, create your photos, create your videos, have a good time doing it. And in my experience, those are the people who seem to grow their accounts and are the most successful. If you hate doing it, and it does, and here's the thing, it becomes very, very monotonous. There's only so many ways you can take a picture of yourself, and after a while, it's like doing the same thing over and over again, but the guys don't care. You know, very simple-minded when it comes to that part. So they just keep doing it. And, you know, over time, they've had levels of success. And what a success is different for every person, you know. But those are the two key things that I have found in the people I've met and worked with, that they just love taking those pictures, and they keep doing it over and over and over. Okay, I think I have one more here for the show. And I like the idea of starting an OF, but not the idea of having to be really extreme. Is extreme content necessary to make money? Short answer, no. And as you'll see, people expect something. So, and a lot of people, as I noted earlier, you just have to settle into your comfort zone or your happy place with the type of material you are okay creating. And you can be just, here I am in my bra, here I am in my bra, here I am in my bra. And that can be your comfort zone, and that's okay. There can be success. It is not necessarily the case that the only way you are going to succeed is to produce more and more explicit content. And I think this is a mistake or a rabbit hole that people go down, where they're not getting a result immediately, and they feel that's because they're not creating like extreme content. So they start to produce things that is not necessarily in their comfort zone, or things that they necessarily feel like they want to produce because they're not getting that immediate result. And that's not the case. I know people who just do what I would call boudoir style content. There isn't even really a lot of nudity or anything like that, and have a good following. And it really has to do a lot, again, with your personality, producing regularly, being chatty with the people that are following you. And it does not have to be extreme, and it does not have to be to make more money. That group has its audience. But the way I kind of always explained it to people, not to get too deep into the weeds and like kind of like a marketing thing, you know, if you're selling your material, you know, and the one thing is, you know, like on YouTube, they say you got a niche, they got to pick a specific group and go after that. But that's not always the case there. Like I said, I think initially you want to appeal to as many people as you can at first. And as you really figure out what you're doing, you can create a second page or something and niche down. But, you know, if you're targeting yourself at a really explicit kind of, you know, your account is going to grow much, much slower because there are way fewer people interested in that one extreme. And I don't want to go into details here and get this video like, restricted. But if you're picking a very kind of extreme kind of a slice of material to create, there's going to be a lot fewer people there looking for that particular thing. So your account is going to grow much, much slower. You may have some dedicated followers, and that may be okay. But, you know, simpler, cuter, prettier stuff has a much, much more broad of an audience, I think, than that extreme type of material. And starting out with a wider group, you tend to grow quicker And then from there, once you have that audience, like I said, you can create a set, and you've seen it all the time. Ooh, I've never done anything like this before. This is the first time. And you could start to test and see, and if you become more comfortable with stuff, just send out those mass messages, and you can kind of start to figure out where you're getting your response from. But no, you do not have to do anything really extreme. And like I said, that is also not the answer if you're not getting a big response on your account. Usually there's other issues there, making a hard turn and doing things that you wouldn't really do just for the sake of it. And as you know, you're going to get those messages from, it doesn't matter. You're going to get like requests like from that, from guys, you know, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to start producing that type of content. So from what I've seen, there is no relation between the extremity of the material produced and the success of that account. There is no link between one and the other. I know plenty of people who produce, I would say, more cute, fun, you know, their underwear and stuff like that, but it's mild relative content, and have great success on there. They're not doing any kind of nudity, penetration, or anything like that, and they are fine, and they're doing very, very well. You know, if that's your thing and that's where you want to be, that's okay too. But don't want people to think that, you know, that is necessary, or if they're not seeing success at doing what they're doing at first, that making that turn is going to change anything, because generally it's not, and it's not going to help you out in that regard. So that's what I had for tonight. I hope you learned a little bit from these questions. Again, I know it's a lot to go through this. Like I joked about creating this show because you could talk about the intricacies of this for, you know, this could be a whole series on its own, answering OnlyFans questions, and you know, just try to help people out who are looking to get involved or experience people with their accounts. And you know, if you have anything you'd like to be answered on a future episode, just leave the comment down below. Reach out to me on my website, and we'll add it in for a future show. I'm not quite sure how regular these shows are going to be, and see what kind of response that we get. But hopefully that was helpful for you. Got through about 10 questions, and thanks for watching today. And I'm going to get the heck out of here, and I will see you next time. So thanks for watching.